Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. This is a recap of the afternoon stream. We're going to talk about Cardano staking pools being a little bit saturated. Their largest staking pools actually are saturated. There are still several pools that are not saturated, but people seem to be gathering in the pools that are actually saturated. Because a lot of those pools are started by the IOHK Foundation themselves, or IOHK or Cardano ambassadors. And people mistakenly think that those are more official and safer or something, which is total nonsense, but people actually think that. Now, that could actually be hurting their profits or your profits if you think that. I'm going to tell you why. Because after the staking pool, what a staking pool actually reaches more than 1% of the total supply, the rewards and the incentives start to go down. So you want to be in a staking pool that isn't saturated. You don't want to be stacking more and more on top of a staking pool that's saturated, because if you do that, then for each additional person, the incentives actually go down. But this is one of the problems of delegated proof of stake that we've actually seen on other chains. And Cardano actually has a pretty decent incentive to do this, because they actually de-incentivize people from stacking onto already saturated pools. But like I said, Cardano is not the first coin or the only coin where this actually happens. We've seen it happen in like Tezos and other coins where people actually just want to concentrate in the larger pools because they think the larger a pool is, the more trustworthy it is, which is not true at all. We don't really know how you solve this problem. Like, they're talking about automatic repooling, that people can actually tick a box for automatic repooling. I'm not really sure how many people would actually tick that box, but this is a problem because it does actually concentrate power in relatively few pools, because like 7% of Cardano's pools right now on the testnet actually control 33% of the coins. So, and the pools with the most incentive to actually join them aren't the ones with the most users. So people are just trying to find trustworthy pools to actually congregate in, but that doesn't really matter because you want to be with the pools that have the highest incentives on the testnet. And this is kind of like the problem with Ethereum, like the problem with staking Ethereum that Vitalik was talking about. Like, oh, I'm afraid that like everyone's just going to stake on, like, all the stake pools are actually just going to be on Amazon Cloud or whatever. It's not exactly the same problem, because he's actually talking about the location of the stake pools versus like how much each individual stake pools have. But it's still like the centralization of power and of coins, and that's what Cardano and everything else wants to avoid. So there's not an easy solution for this problem, but like decentivizing like overstaking pools is definitely one of the ways you could do it. But even doing that, like 1% for each pool, you can basically still concentrate in about 100, 200 pools. So there's going to be, I think, a certain extent to this decentralization. But, even if like the governance is spread out among 100 or 200 pools, it's still fine for me. That's decentralized enough for me. And also, I think Cardano will find a solution to this problem. I think the automatic pool switching will do wonders for this. But I do think I don't think like staking is ever going to be truly completely like equally decentralized throughout all the pools, because that's just how human nature works. We want to gather in the pools where everyone else is gathered, which goes against like the whole concept of decentralization. So they're going to have to fight that, and I think they'll be decently successful in doing it. The other thing we want to do is look at Insolar and their 2019 yearly report. It is pretty positive. I know a lot of you are interested in Insolar, and I think for small coins under $10 million, it is definitely one of the most promising projects. It has dumped recently, so it might be a decent time to pick some up. That's not financial advice. That is just my personal opinion. In last year, they've also done collaborations with like Oracle, Microsoft, IDC, Beta, AT Kearney, Berkeley, York, and Inasus. So, they actually have worked with a lot of the big guys. They've also won a couple of awards. I don't really care too much about awards, but it means they're doing some good stuff. And they also have projects like in North America and Europe. For a lot of these companies that they've actually partnered with, they can't tell which company it is. I guess that's because it's under NDA or whatever. But they actually have like pinpointed out which projects that they actually have done, like quality control with TUM in manufacturing. And it says just like leading luxury car manufacturer in the UK, trusted provenance book. But they don't tell which leading luxury car manufacturer it is. So for a coin that's actually valued at under $7 million in market cap, this is definitely something to look at for a pickup for a lot of gains in the future, because they're just getting started out. And if it starts to take off, it could lead to a lot of gains. So that is the deal with INS. And with smaller projects, there's not a lot of liquidity either way. So if there's an actual bull run and people catch onto this coin, it could go up very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind when you look into Insolar. The other thing I want to talk about is OceanX credit and debit buying. So OceanX has opened up credit card and debit card buying for crypto. But the issue is, even though OceanX has opened it up, your bank may not have opened it up. So just because the exchange opened it up doesn't mean that you're going to be successful in actually using your credit or debit card in buying crypto. Because if your bank doesn't allow it, you still won't be able to do it. But it's pretty cool that they've actually got credit and debit cards being allowed. I think you're going to have a lot more, most people are going to have a lot more luck with their debit card, because banks are more lenient with debit cards because it's actually using your own money. Whereas we all know that credit cards are essentially just borrowing the bank's money to buy stuff, and they have many more restrictions on that. They don't want people borrowing their money to buy crypto. So that is the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you, and have a nice day.